Hello and welcome back to Sports Speak. I'm your host, Spencer Ripchik.
And I'm your co-host, Tanyon Loose.
So, Tanyon, we're winding down here on the school year. How's things shaping up for you?
Things are shaping up pretty good. I'm sad there's a lot of sports are kind of winding down. That's what gets me through the semester here for most of the time. But I mean, that just means new ones are going to start up again soon. I know they got the blue-white game coming shortly, and that means football season's about to start back up. And speaking of that, congrats on your
thanks,
football
man.
beat there. That's a huge thing. So I'm happy for you there.
Yeah, it should be a lot of fun with the football season. I mean, sports, we do have good old MLB baseball starting up.
That's true.
So that's something to look to. But as always, we're going to start this off with our favorite news of the week. So, Tanyon, why don't you get us started this week?
So I'm peeking ahead here at Spencer's one. So both of us have some Michigan versus Penn State related news here. So mine just happens to be men's lacrosse, and that is men's lacrosse finally back in the win column again. They had a little bit of a tough stretch there. I know they dropped a bunch in a row, but now they beat Michigan. It was on senior day, so that's obviously what you want at home there for those seniors departing. So they've had quite the up and down run at Penn State. They've been to a Final Four in lacrosse where they fell to Yale, and now they had a couple seasons they were kind of just so-so. This season really has not gone the way that a lot of them wanted it to, but they capped it off as their last home game with a win over Michigan, beat them 9-8 in OT. They had 6 different Indy Lions scored in the first half, so I mean that was a great start for them. They led 7-2, 33 seconds into the second half. So it really looked like it was going to be shaping up to be a blowout there against the Wolverines, but this team obviously just doesn't want to go out that way apparently. So Michigan came roaring back in the second half really, and tied it up to take it to overtime. But hero of the day for men's lacrosse was Mac Costin, who punched in the winning goal, got the blue and white back in the win column, and really kind of saved at least the latter portion of the season for this Penn State lacrosse team.
Yeah, I watched the game and I watched the Spanish broadcast for a little bit, which was pretty interesting. So it was kind of fun that way, but everything else, yeah, I mean, it looks like men's lacrosse has finally got a win, which is pretty big, even though since their season has been pretty tragic, I would say.
Yeah, they have an opportunity to end it off on a high note here. I know they got 2 more games, both away. I think it's Johns Hopkins and Rutgers, I believe. So, I mean, if they can end it off with 3 straight wins, I think that would be a win for this team, absolutely, just to be able to end it on that mark. And, I mean, they'll be in the Big Ten tournament, so you never know what they could do there.
Yeah, so as you said, speaking of Penn State wins over Michigan, my news is Penn State softball upsets number 22 Michigan, 3-2 in Ann Arbor. It's the first time since 2007 the Nittany Lions defeated Michigan, and first time since 2005 since Penn State defeated Michigan in Ann Arbor. So Kelly Linglefter pitched really well at the start of the game for the Nittany Lions, taking them down. Michigan in 1-2-3 order. However, the Wolverines, one of the better teams in the Big Ten, jumped out to an early lead on a sac fly. But Penn State struck right back. The bats got pretty hot toward the middle of the game. Allie Curlin hit a 2-run shot to put Penn State up 1, but then Michigan answered back right back, tied things up with a solo shot of their own, 2 apiece. And then in the 7th innings, things were looking rocky for Penn State as they had 2 outs in the top of the 7th, but with ice in her veins, Casey Lindmark hit a dinger out to the fence and puts Penn State back out front, and then Bailey Partial came in, shut things down, and Penn State took the dub over Michigan.
All right, man. Softball.
Yeah.
Some moves out there. I know. I've seen a little bit of softball in the news. Really, I know. I think Oklahoma's on a historic run there.
Yeah, I think it's 35-game win streak or something.
Absolutely hammering opponents. I think they're mercy ruling people a lot of the time. It seems like that, just absolutely blowing them out the water. So, something to keep an eye on. Looks like Penn State softball team is definitely on the rise, though, for sure.
Yeah, it's good to see. Since last year, their season was also very tragic, but now it looks they have a 20-plus wins season, right back up there.
Absolutely.
This week we have another guest joining us, the Collegian's beat writer of the hottest Penn State sport right now, men's volleyball, and so we have Mike White.
What's up?
Yeah, thanks for joining us, Mike. How have you
No
been?
problem. I've been pretty good, just covering the games, doing schoolwork and all that, especially around this time.
Yeah, closing out here.
Yeah.
A lot of things winding down. School year winding down,
final
sports winding
stretch. It's the
down.
final stretch, yeah.
Everything coming to a close here, but I think we're going to get right into things. Per usual with our guests here, me and Spencer are by no means men's volleyball experts, so that's why we got to bring in our resident analyst right here, Mike. So we're going to ask him a couple questions and kind of get the gist of what's going on with one of the best teams Penn State's seen in a while in the volleyball category there. So we're just going to get right into it, and we just want to know, just off the bat, like, what has really been going right for Penn State this season? Obviously, it's been a success, but what do you think has been the driving factor?
Yeah, I think honestly it's just like everyone working together. Coach Pav always talks about it in the media avails. It's just it has the same goal, and it's to win. And all of them, they're working hard in the practice gym, going to practices. Like they're always working on like things that they need to obviously work on. And at this point in the season, they're kind of refining stuff because they know like kind of like they know they're a very, very good team, but they're not settled. They're staying motivated, especially over the past. They're on an 18-game win streak right now, and they're just taking it one game at a time. They're focused on the team that's in front of them, and they're all working together, all for that ultimate goal.
Yeah, it's something I wonder if the team recognizes they're in a little bit of a weaker conference relative to some other teams. Kind of out west, you could say, so maybe they understand a little bit that the teams they're playing right now aren't going to be the toughest competition.
No, yeah, I mean, like, they've obviously, I think we were talking about today, they're one of the 3 teams at Penn State who aren't in the Big Ten. They're in the EIVA. And so obviously they're the only ranked team in that conference. But they went on the 4-game West Coast road trip playing the West Coast teams, but that was early on in the season. But I mean, on Saturday night they played against NJIT, and it was a gritty game. Like each set came down close. It was between 1 point for the last 5 points a lot of times. And even though they won 3-0, it was still. They still got tested. Their physicality got tested. It was a hard-nosed effort game. And Coach Pavlik was talking about today, you want those types of games going down at this point in the season because, yes, like a lot of their games they have been winning by a lot. It's been blowouts. But when you get down to this point, right before the EIVA tournament, right before the NCAAs, it's always good to have that type of competition. It gets you in that competitive field. It gets you ready for having those close games when it comes into the tournament. So even though it is a weaker conference, that was a good test for them this weekend.
Yeah. I'm gonna say I think I kind of heard that. I feel like some basketball coaches and stuff during March Madness, especially their coaches wanted to have those close games, kind of in maybe the early rounds if they're a higher seed, to get their team kind of understanding that it's only going to get harder from here.
Exactly. Yeah. Especially at this point when they're on an 18-game win streak and. It's been a lot against EIVA teams, but with the EIVA tournament coming up, they're getting another feel for those teams that they might have not seen since January, And so it's kind of like they're getting refreshing, know what to do, so they can ultimately try to reach their final goal.
Yeah. So, like, looking towards the postseason now, like, what team do you think poses the biggest threat for Penn State?
I think the easy ones to say are the teams out west. You got UCLA. I think is in the top 4. Long Beach State's always up there. So definitely one of those West Coast teams. Volleyball is a big staple out there. I think a lot of people know that, just because like the setting they're in. So obviously, it seems like a year-round sport there because they're able always to be outside during the summer, play in the winter, and all that. So I definitely say a team out west. The West Coast road trip they dropped 3 or 4 in the beginning of the season, but they were still getting their feet wet throughout the season, and I think now they can play with anyone. I really do. They've shown great improvement throughout the year. So, but if I had to say the biggest threat, definitely one of those West Coast Cali teams.
Gotcha. I think so. We're gonna looking a little bit more specifically at Penn State's roster. I mean, obviously, great year all around for them. They've had a number of guys who really stepped up. But if you had to just single out one guy, like who's really been the MVP for this team this season, do you think?
I think that if you're looking at MVP, you always got staples like Brett Wildman, you got Cal Fisher, Cole Bogner, but one of the biggest surprises and the best surprises has been sophomore middle blocker Toby Ezeonu. Last year he was a freshman, he was very raw, he wasn't starting, he's a starter now, and even at the beginning of this year he wasn't starting. But the strides he's made, the improvements he's made, Coach Pav raves about him, and he's a great guy, he is. And we were talking about it today. He made a play. He's 6'7", by the way, so he's huge in the middle. And he made a play where there was this antenna, and he literally wrapped around his arm and kept the ball in play. And maybe he was just plays that only he can make. And if you ask Coach Pav, his improvement in strides from last year, or even at the beginning of the season to where he's at now, is unbelievable. He has turned himself into one of the best players on the team, and he just does it all, it seems like, especially being that big 6'7" presence in the middle. He's definitely the most improved by far on the team.
Yeah. I think that's kind of like a scenario where you can kind of take a great team and elevate them to like a championship level team is when you have like an unexpected guy like that set up.
Yeah.
I know you have like Brett Wildman returning and Cal Fisher.
Yeah.
Like those are obviously guys who at the start of the season I know people are looking at for them to be real leaders in this team.
Yeah.
But you've seen it across really any sport when you have a guy you maybe expect to be like a decent role player, but really rise into stardom and just kind of really fill out the roster there. That's just a huge, huge thing to have for a team looking to be a title hopeful.
Oh, absolutely. And I think like you can look at that with any sport when you get those like kind of like facility grown players who make those great strides. It just makes your team that much better because it's not like someone transferred over and they still got to learn it. He's been there for this whole time and he knows all those guys and they know how to play with him. And now with Toby Ezeonu, he's always like making big defensive blocks in the middle. He's always, the way he serves, he's getting service aces like that a lot of times. And the team loves it. You see him whenever he makes a play, everyone's going crazy. The whole crowd goes crazy. So it's definitely a big plus to have that great improvement out of him this year.
Yeah, so you kind of talked a little bit about like the bright sides. I mean, Toby seems like a very big bright side so far, but what concerns are there for this Nittany Lion team going into the postseason, you think?
Concerns, I definitely say like one of the biggest points you could say is having the the EIVA competition for a lot of their season. Even though I don't think that is that big of a concern because I think they could play with anyone. You know, there are some teams like look at the teams out west where they're playing like UCLA's, USC's, and all that. They're always playing with each other because they're in similar conferences. So I think that could be kind of like a disadvantage they have where they haven't played those teams since the end of January. So anything can happen in that 3-month span, obviously, in sports. Anything can happen. And so I think that could definitely hurt them when they go in the NCAAs.
Yeah. All right. I mean, yeah, it's going to be interesting to watch. I think we're going to wrap it up here with a little bit of a look towards the future. Yeah. Obviously, we're coming up in the postseason here. So what are your personal predictions for both the IVA and the just NCAA tournament in general? Obviously, it seems Penn State's going to be in both of those and have a pretty good look.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely think Penn State will win. I definitely think they're the favorite to win the EIVAs. They have an undefeated 15-0 conference record. They got the extra days of rest for that tournament, which is big. That's big, especially at this time of year where all the student athletes, they have school too. And on top of that, they have to practice, get in the weight room, and train. And so that rest is definitely important. So I definitely would say Penn State's the EIVA favorites. Going into the NCAAs, I think they can make a run for it all. I really do think this team can win a national championship. You know, they just have talent all over the court. The offensive side, defensive side, serving, everything. The chemistry is there. Passing, like getting the balls in the right place. I just think that they have talent all over and they can make a run at the championship and play with anyone.
Yeah, that would certainly be interesting. You know, not the best year for Penn State football, not the best year for Penn State basketball, but
I don't know.
You never know. You still could have two national championships on this campus by the end of the year. So
bit of wrestling, bit of volleyball.
Yeah.
Hey, keep Penn State fans happy, and I mean, we'll just have to wait and see. It's going to be still a long road to go for that team yet, but obviously one that Penn State fans want to keep an eye on. So we really appreciate you joining us. We've talked volleyball a couple times this podcast, but it's certainly never been as in-depth as this conversation has been, so I think we're both happy about that.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
thank you. We'll have to have you back on soon, maybe, if this run keeps on happening.
Yeah, hopefully, yeah.
So, thank you. All right, we're going to go into our first new segment in a little while here, and that's going to be a mascot fantasy basketball draft. So I'm personally a pretty big fantasy guy myself. I like to do some football, some basketball. So we thought we could kind of combine that with a little bit of mascot talk because everyone loves them. Their mascots in college sports. There's some quite creative ones out there, other ones that aren't as great. But we're going to take a look at their athletic ability here and make our own basketball teams. So I'm not sure. How do we want to pick first pick here?
Do you want to do rock, paper, scissors quick?
Rock, paper, scissors?
All right, yeah, I'm ready.
You want on shoot?
Rock, paper, scissors, shoot, yeah.
All right. Sounds good.
Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Oh,
bingo.
Okay, you got
first pick. All right. I think I'm gonna take my power forward right off the bat. I'm definitely taking Michigan State's mascot, Sparty Spark. I think it's pretty much a no-brainer there. I mean, he's just a Spartan, pretty jacked, pretty huge. He's gonna be a monster down in the paint there at power forward. So I think I'm gonna go with that one and take him off the board there. So that leaves it up to you with the number 2 overall.
Yeah, I'm gonna take my power forward, the number 2 overall pick as well. I'm gonna pick probably the most lethal animal on the planet of the Earth, the Michigan Wolverine. So that is my power forward.
All right. I think there may be a little bit of a size disparity there, but
Yeah,
you
but
never know.
I mean,
the quickness could be.
Quickness, and he just tears through things. So
That is true. All right, who do I want with my second pick here? I think so. I'm looking at the lineup here. I may go and get my shooting guard. I think off the bat, and I may take the Penn State Nittany Lion. I think you've seen him at the games and everything.
Bro,
Looks to be pretty coordinated.
He can heave, man.
Looks to be pretty coordinated there. I think he's a shooter. I think he's going to put up at least 25 a game in my lineup there alongside the Spartan. 2 pretty athletic mascots. I'm pretty confident so far.
Yeah, well, I was going to take him a shooting guard, so now I'm going to take a big old center. I'm going to take Purdue Pete, who's absolutely jacked, if you've seen him in some pictures. So, yeah, having him down the paint, just out-muscling people. I mean, he's going to have to deal with your Sparty the Spartan, but I think he'll just take names down there.
Definitely a big matchup there. I think I may have to come in with my own center to kind of combat that. I think I might go Brutus Buckeye.
Oh, yeah.
He's pretty big guy. He's got a big head, honestly. If it still takes up room, you have to clear him out in the paint there. He's more of a traditional center, I think, in that he's just going to post you up, occupy a lot of space in the middle there. But that's going to be my center, I think.
Yeah, so I'm going to take, I'm going to go with my small forward, another kind of pretty crazy animal. I'm taking Bucky the Badger. Honey badgers are pretty nuts animals as well. So we have a Wolverine and a badger coming at you.
So you got like the defensive lineup shaping up as tenacious defenders out there. Got a badger, Wolverine. I mean, Bucky Badger looks like pretty athletic when you in the clip art representation that they have there. But I mean, yeah, he'd be pretty good. I think I like that pick there. It's gonna make things a little bit tough for me. I think I might have to go with a little bit of size. You know what? I'm going to ignore the size, actually. I'm going to take arguably my favorite mascot here. And he's going to play point guard for me. And that's Lil Red.
Yeah, I knew you were going to take him.
Nebraska's mascot. I think they kind of replaced him with Herbie the Husker. But you know what? Lil Red will always have a place in my heart. And he's definitely going to run point guard for me. He's got handles for sure. He can facilitate an offense. I'm pretty confident that he can distribute to the Nittany Lion and Spartan down low there. So I'm liking him as my one.
So for my point guard, there's not too many options here, but I'm gonna go with Herky the Hawk because he's got some wings, and I feel like, I don't know why, but I feel like he could throw pretty far. I mean, Iowa Stadium is pretty big, so I mean he's got to heave those T-shirts somehow.
Fair enough.
So I'm taking him at my point guard. Iowa's a pretty good basketball team.
Yeah, they did have some point guard movement today, actually.
They just won the Big Ten.
Yeah.
So
I don't know if you saw that. You see the Joe Toussaint committed to West Virginia. So there's already some Iowa point guards in the news there. Now you're taking their mascot at point guard. But I like the pick there. So I'm trying to think. I got my small forward left here pretty much. And I got, I'm trying to think where I want to go. Small forward, I'm going to want some height there, obviously. A little bit of athleticism. So I think I'm going to go with Willie the Wildcat, Northwestern's mascot. I think he's pretty solid. He's definitely pretty agile. I mean, probably pretty similar to the Nittany Lion there. Maybe, I don't know, I don't really know the height difference. That'd be interesting thing to do some research into there. Maybe I should have the Nittany Lion in my small forward and the Wildcat at shooting guard. You never know, but I think they're going to be a good rotation there, the 2 and the 3.
So I think I just have my shooting guard left. So I'm going to take Tostito the Terrapin as my shooting guard. Even though I have no idea how good he is at shooting. I mean, that's kind of like the only one left on the board. So I could kind of have to go with him.
Yeah, that's what happens when you get down to the later rounds.
Tostito the Terrapin, Maryland fans, was picked last in the draft. Just wanted you to know that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was pretty straightforward there. He's just a turtle.
Yeah, he's probably really
large.
slow.
Yep. I think it's a pretty straightforward pick right there.
So looking at these two teams, I feel like my team might have the edge, or your team. But I mean, I wish these two teams could go at each other. They should have a mascot
I've
basketball
seen that. They
game.
have like commercials like that kind of. You seen
they used
the
to have
March Madness. They have a bunch of them show up. They had like a mascot like skills competition at some point. I
they
think.
should bring it
March
back.
Madness, something like that. I'd love to see it. Big Ten championship, great opportunity. Put these squads together, let them go to work.
Yeah,
You never know.
and they had a mascot mode in like NCAA football back in the day. So I mean, they could have just taken that and done that.
You never know. Maybe he'll make his return when the game comes back out.
Yeah.
All right, well, I think that about wraps things up for us in this episode of Sports Speak. Per usual, we'll be back with another episode next week.
Yeah, if you like this podcast, please subscribe to the Collegian YouTube channel. Thank you, and have a great rest of your week.